Guess who's back on FlossTube? It's been a little while. Actually, it's been a long time, actually. When I looked at the last time I did a FlossTube, it's been, I think, just about going on 2 months, which is a long time. And I'm having trouble with my camera this morning. It wants to slope one way or the other, so I figured I would just do this standing up. So welcome back if you haven't stopped by before. My name is LaDonna, and this is my channel, Sampling of Memories, where I talk about stitching and just about anything else that I am involved in at the moment. So I do want to say that I've got my notes in front of me, so I don't forget what I want to say. I'm going to try to stay on task and do a concise video. How's that? Because I know everyone's busy and they've got a lot going on. So I have missed doing my FlossTube. I have tried to catch up with everyone and stay up on what's going on with everyone else, but it's been very busy, which I'm sure it's been very busy for a lot of you as well. I do want to thank Michelle, FarmGirl, for giving me a shout out in her last video, I believe. I'm still catching up, so I believe it was her last one. So thank you so much. I love watching you too, and I'm glad you enjoy my vignette behind me. Maybe one video I'll talk about what's behind me and how they came to be in my possession, because I do have quite a few antiques back there. Let's see here. The other thing, I think I'm going to have to absolutely make it to one of your retreats next year. I have not been to Minnesota, so it would be fun to do that, and it looks like you guys have a great time, and to have an opportunity to meet a lot of other FlossTubers that I watch and keep up with, as well as other stitchers. And of course, I do need to add a Minnesota Starbucks mug to my collection. I do collect them, so I have quite a few. So anyway, I will insert a photo, because I know I'm probably not the only one that collects the Starbucks coffee mugs. And the shelf that I have them in is the cubby that everyone's been purchasing from Michael's for their small stitching pieces. I actually put my coffee mugs in it, and I need another one, and they've been out of stock online. So, and the ones near me, they sell out pretty much the minute they get them. So if you're in your area and you happen to buy them, grab one, because the price is always really good and you can use it for so many different things. But anyway, I digress. I do want to thank everyone who's been watching and commenting and subscribing while I've been on my hiatus. I appreciate it. I do read the comments. I may not be able to respond very quickly because of everything that's going on, but I do read them and I do enjoy them. And I also enjoy those of you who then follow me on Instagram and Facebook and comment on the few photos that I've posted, because I don't do that very frequently either. But I do try to keep up with everyone and look at them, because I do enjoy it, and it does give me some motivation for when I can get back into what I hope will return to be my normal life. So we'll see. My craft room, which was one of the reasons I took the hiatus, was to give me my own little corner in the house that I could have some privacy, focus on on my crafts, and maybe transition doing my FlossTubes from my dining room up to my craft room. The only reason I have the house to myself right now is because I suggested to my husband that his mom might want a field trip to Sam's Club. So that's where they're at, and then he's going to take her out to lunch, and then he's going to stop by the comic book store for himself. So he's making sure he does the whole gamut. So I have a couple hours before I have additional folks in the house. So anyway. All right, so my craft room, there are a couple projects still that I'm working on. One is a curtain whoopsie. And the other one is an antique chair that I have. I love the chair. It's perfect for me because I'm short. So it's a low chair. So those of you who are like me who are short, you know how sometimes your legs are always dangling over the side of chairs. Well, this one I can actually put my feet right down on the ground without having a footstool or an ottoman or anything below me. So I want to add it to my craft room, but the color doesn't match with the decor. So I have a project in mind for that. And what I'm thinking of doing, because I do a lot of different things. I stitch, I design, I make my accessories, I love to paint, I love to look for treasures, restore them if I can, or if they're too far gone, instead of replacing the veneer, I will paint them. So I have a couple projects in mind for my craft room, so I thought it would be fun to just go ahead and video them. And if you're interested when those drop, you're more than welcome to watch them. If not, then just visit me here for the stitching. So I'm trying to be a little bit more conscientious of staying focused on FlossTube is for stitching. My other things I will put out there in the regular, I guess, YouTube world, or maybe I'll still do the FlossTube, but then make a note that this is focused on X, Y, or Z. How's that? All right, so I will also, I don't think I mentioned this, but I will also, once I get my craft room up and ready, I'll do a craft room tour, because I always enjoy watching how people have set up their craft rooms, because it gives me some ideals that I didn't necessarily think of for storing items, or maybe some thrifting things that I can do that will give me some extra space or storage that I didn't think of. So I always find it fun to watch. So if you want to join me for that, you'd be more than welcome to join me for that as well, but I'll keep it separate from my normal FlossTube. And if anyone has forgotten, my son does have a bird, and his name is Stanley. And so whenever I start talking, he thinks I'm talking to him. So he's in the dining room, not dining room, but like the kitchen, family room area, because he likes looking out the window at the other birds. So I don't know if he realizes he's a bird too or not, but he likes watching the birds. And then he'll chat every once in a while. So if you hear squawking, it's not one of the kids or someone else in my house. It is the bird saying hello. And let's see here. So believe it or not, over the last few weeks, I have actually found some time to stitch. Not very much. And if anyone knows me, they know this is one of my, I've got two long-term projects. One is a long dog, which is 3/4 of the way finished. And the other one is the sampler that I'm going to show you, the burst sampler. Our guild has, we went through 1 year, we're still doing it, we're interviewing some of the stitchers that are members of our guild to find out when they started stitching, who introduced them, how long they've been stitching, if they have a first project, what was it, what they've been working on, what was one of their most challenging projects, what's, you know, have they may have tried cross stitch and then went to needlepoint, crewel work, you know, what are some of the other things that they're involved in. And then we usually wrap up with the biggest question: if you're stranded on a desert island by yourself, what project would you take with you? So when it was my turn, and the question was, what's the longest project you've been working on? I think probably half the people in the guild said, your long dog, because I was like, I can't think of one, and they're like, your long dog, and I'm like, yeah, that's been taking me a little while, but I will finish it at some point. But anyway, I digress. So what I've been working on is the Blackbird design Sailing Home, and I'll pull it out of the plastic sleeve. So it is this one, if you're not familiar with it, and it's just, to me, a sweet little burst sampler that it's different. It's not your traditional burst sampler. It's just real sweet. And since I do have boys, I started this one for my youngest son, who will be 15 in October. So I'm not sure how long I've been working on this one, but it's about the only one that I do in hand. So it's a good one for me to take to guild, or if I'm watching TV, which can be dangerous as well, for me to work on, because I've had to redo this flower several times because I've been watching TV and got my count off, and because it's all the same color right now in the same area. You can see the variation, the variegated threads in there, but I've had to take it out a few times, and I think honestly at this point I should be taking it out again, but I've done it 3 times so far. So I'm like, I'm just gonna go with it. I'm just gonna make it work. It's my world, and Only me and everybody else who watches my FlossTube knows. So this will be for Lance, but it has the alphabet going across, and then it has little sailboats that will go across. And my husband, when he was growing up, his father owned a sailboat, and so they would race, oh goodness, Lake Erie was the main place I believe they raced, and then I can't remember the name of I'm not from Michigan, so I cannot remember all the lakes. He gets frustrated with me, but hey, in that area I'm geographically challenged, so I can't remember which, but it's the other one on the other side, Chicago, and I think Wisconsin borders it on the other side. So yeah, and they used to do the Mackinac race. So he was real big into sailing growing up, and so the sailboats I thought would be a nice little touch to include, because it's a combination of both my husband's interest and mine with the sailboats, and then my stitching. So that one is in progress, and maybe we have our guild retreat this coming weekend, so maybe I will have an opportunity to actually finish it. So we shall see. So let's see here. I found this on one of the Facebook groups. It's a Lizzie Kate, and I've never done a Lizzie Kate before, but I've always liked this one, and since pretty much what's out there is going to be it, since she's retiring, I went ahead and picked this one up. I would like to put it over where we keep our dogs, leash and food and all that fun stuff, but it's dog lessons for people. So let me get it out of the plastic so you don't have the glare. So it's this one, if you're not familiar. And so that's one, I just went ahead and grabbed it because, like I said, it may not be there, so I figured I better grab it while I can. And then, like most of you, I am picking up the Little House, the Farmhouse series, the Farmhouse Christmas, which I just love. And I didn't take them all out of the plastic sleeve because I just didn't think of it, quite frankly. And I think that's okay, but I'll show you the first one so it's not glaring at you, because I think most of you have seen them before. And she's on, I just received number 7, so there's only a couple more and it's done. So once they're finished, I do want to have, and I know this is really dreaming for me because I have so much free time, I do want to have a Christmas ornament tree. So I thought this would be a cute one to do with, do each of them individually on the tree. And a few years ago, well, I guess when Lance was probably 3-4 years old, he loved John Deere trucks, tractor trailers. Everything was John Deere. His coat was John Deere. His hat was John Deere. We live in a subdivision, so we drive by farms all the time. We're surrounded by farms, but tractors, not so much. So one year for Christmas, my mom bought him the John Deere tractor that he could, I think it's a pedal one. Yeah, it's not motorized. It pedals, and it's got the little wagon to pull behind it, and he just thought he was a cat's meow. Then one year for Christmas, Thanksgiving, excuse me, we were down visiting family, and one of my cousins is a farmer, and he has the big John Deere tractor, so my aunt took him down to my cousin's farm and let him drive the tractor. And he just, when he came back, talk about making the little boy's dreams come true. They did, because he was just over the moon. He was so ecstatic that he had this John Deere experience and that he drove the tractor. So and then my cousin proceeded to tell me that, yes, he really did drive the tractor. I took my hands off the steering wheel and everything. And I'm like, thanks. That really kind of scares me to death. He's 3 or 4 years old at the time. So I have, there was a point to that story. I want to put the Little House ornaments with the cow lights that we have, the John Deere light covers that we have. What else is on the tree? Milk cans. I have all of this because I used to do over-the-top Christmas, especially when the kids were younger, and the whole house would be decorated. I haven't done it that much the last couple of years, just because with the kids getting older, they're just kind of like, yeah, whatever. So I'm like, okay, why am I killing myself? But I do enjoy it, and one of the trees that we did for several years was his John Deere tree in his room. So I always tried to pick a theme that the kids were into at that time to feature on their tree, and for a few years it was John Deere. So All right, those are all my goodies. That's what I have going on. And let's see here. I thought I'd talk about flower frogs. I touched on it a little bit during my last video. And I've put some pictures out there because last weekend I was out at one of the thrifty, well, not really thrifty because they're not really thrifty, but I guess home decor, the painted furniture, repurposed furniture, unique finds. And one of the pavilions outside is all outdoor. The concrete garden features that you put out, plants, just unique stuff that you would want to put in your garden, old doors, fences, that kind of stuff. And when I went around the corner on one of the tables, she had this whole collection of flower frogs. And it was stunning to see them all set up, all different, because some of them had statues, one of them had a rooster, bowl. There were all kinds there. So I had put a picture out on Instagram and a lot of people had commented. And so the last few pictures that I put out have been some of my flower frogs that, quite honestly, my mom has found for me. I have found some, but I think I had mentioned, if I tell my mom I'm into something and I'm looking for something, she's on a mission and she usually goes overboard, but I don't tell her to stop because she has more time to go out thrifting than I do. And if she finds something that I am going to like, she's more than welcome to bring it to me. And why stop a good thing, right? So she had stopped at a store going down Route 7 from Leesburg towards Winchester, so going west from us. And she asked the lady, do you have any flower frogs? And she had, I think my mom said 2 or 3 boxes of flower frogs. She hadn't put them out, and she just asked my mom, what do you want to give me for them? And so my mom gave her a price and she took it. So they made their way home to me. And so I thought I would go through some of the different styles that I have. What are the most common ones? For those of you who do not know, flower frogs are these. They're glass usually, and they have the holes in them for you to sit down into a bowl or a vase or a container and put your flowers. And it helps you arrange the single stems. So you can poke the flowers in here and then arrange them so they don't kind of all bunch into one direction. They're given support to stay in the arrangement that you want them to be in. So I always associated them with like the early 1900s. But when I did some research to find out a little bit more, I found out that actually they started back in 1875 in the U.S. So that was the year that a patent was issued to S. Van Stone in the U.S. for flower frogs. So I thought that was interesting. So you may find some that are really, really old. So keep that in mind if you're out there searching. Like this one, I think is a fairly newer one. It's a large one, but you can see, and I don't know how well you can tell, but the glass is really clear in this one. Whereas this one looks like it's definitely older. And even though it's a clear glass, I think even you can tell that it's made a little bit more, I guess, rudimentary. How's that? It's a little rougher. And the glass itself looks smoky, which you can kind of see from here. But like the holes in this one are like perfect. Whereas this one, when you look at it, you can see the holes, there's no uniformity to them. So, and it has air bubbles in it, which the other one does not. So that would be one clue that it's probably a lot older than you think it is. So those are some of the things to look for. And then this one is still clear, but you can see that it's got the air bubble in it right here, and that the holes aren't exactly formed perfectly, and there's another air bubble right here. So anyway, so these are the larger clear ones that I have. I have several of those, and then you get into some that are a little bit more colorful. So green, I have a few green. I think I showed this one the last time, and it looks like it's a fairly older one too, except this one does have little feet, which I'm sure you can't tell. Maybe if I turn it sideways you can see, there we go. See the little bump right there? It has 3 feet to help it sit. And what else is unique about this? It's got a few air bubbles in it. I'm thinking, based on the kind of glass it is, it's probably made of depression glass, which, for those of you who don't know, depression glass was something that came out during the Depression, and the ladies would go, I believe they would collect, I think that was the one that they collected like green stamps for, and they would go to the movies and get, I'm pretty sure it was green stamps they would collect, and then they would be able to buy pieces, and usually they bought it at the grocery store. But a lot of times you'll hear, well, carnival glass is kind of different. So, but depression glass, it was very popular. You'll see the pinks and the greens and the amber yellow colors. So that's depression glass, and that's what I think this is made of. And then let's see here, I have one, this one's carnival glass. So this one's smaller and it's pearlescent, so it's really sparkly. It's an amber color, but I just love it because I like things that sparkle. So pearlescent appeals to me because it's sparkly. And you can tell this one's old because you can just tell it's been used and loved quite a bit. There's no cracks or anything in it, and it has feet as well. So it's got a little bit, so actually that's probably where, when they put it in, when the glass is hot, so they blow it and they mold it, I was thinking that maybe it was the feet that they used, but that would be more ceramics, to make sure that the heat got all the way around it when they put it in the kiln. But you can still see this one's got little dips, and if I turn it the right way, you might be able to see all three of them. So once again, it's got the three. So let's see here. Here is a bigger green one that I have, and once again, I think they're both depression glass. This one is a little bit more rudimentary, as far as you can tell. It wasn't made out of a mold or anything like that. It was formed, and then it looks like they probably punched down on the glass to make the holes. And it has something a little bit different. Instead of real feet, it kind of curves down. Let me see if you can see that. So it's got the three, they're almost a triangle shape with the end cut off, but there's three here, and you can see how it kind of dips down. I'm trying to see if I can get it so you can see it. There we go. So it kind of concaves a little bit and then up, so that it's actually supported by those three little points. Let's see here. This one I would say is a pink depression glass one. So it's pretty much the same size as this one, a little bit bigger, not much, but same style. And this one's got a little bit of chips in it, but I don't care. I like them. And then it's got some cracking down at the bottom. I don't know if you can see that or not. It doesn't look like it's going to pick up very well, but I personally don't care. And then here's another pink one that this looks like definitely depression glass, probably the 30s because of the design around the edges. It has the air bubbles as well, and it just looks like it was formed by hand versus a machine making it. So those are, because some things, let's face it, things now are getting reproduced left and right. I went to a store a few weeks ago, picked up some mason jars that I hadn't seen colors before because I collect those too, and I went to another section of the store and looked, and I was like, oh my goodness, I've never seen that color before. And when I picked it up, underneath on the tag, it said made in India. So I put them down. I was like, okay, because normally the things you look for are air bubbles, wearing down of the logo that's on the front, because over time it will wear down. Those are usually tip-offs that it's really not an antique, it's a knockoff. But the ones that I saw that were marked made in India, they did a pretty good job of doing a replication, because the air bubbles and some of the typical things that you look for when things have aged, as far as glass, were not there. Were there, so that made me think, it might really be an old one. And then I have a solid black one. This one I would imagine is just a ceramic and it has the 3 bumps as well to kind of lift it up. So my thought would be the reason it's designed that way is to try to level it when it is sitting in a vase, and to, if it's down at the bottom of the vase, to hold the flowers, depending on if it's a shallow one or not, to let water circulate underneath as well, would be the reason I would think it was there. Let's see here, metal ones. So I didn't bring down a metal cage one. I don't have as many of those, but actually I'm telling a story. I see some over there. So, okay, you know it's really bad when, or your life is really in a mess when you're standing right next to metal flower frog cages and you think you don't have any. I guess I should have left my glasses off, but these are 2 examples of the metal. You can just basically stick the flowers in there. To me, the advantage of this one over the glass one would be if you're putting it in something that's metal, or if you want to bunch up the flower stems or have thicker flower stems that you want to put in so that it looks fuller. That would be a reason I would think you would use the metal. And then this one's a little bit different. It's metal, but it also has this piece as well. It's built inside, so it's got the prongs where this could be used as a weapon. So if you ever come across one of these, they will hurt you. They pretty much look like very small nails mounted into a ceramic piece. So just be careful when you pick one up because they will hurt. The reason for these, of course, would be to maybe you have some moss or something you want down for it to stay in place. Flower stems that you want to really stay planted. I don't think it would damage them too much if you just kind of poked it one time. You wouldn't shred it. But this one is made with a combination of the metal flower frog with the prongs inside. And then, that's why I said I completely forgot that I had all these around me. And then here's a larger metal cage. And then this one's curved as well. I use these for, well, most sewers that I know use them for their scissors. I use them for pencils. You could put hat pins in them. You could use, maybe if you have a collection of decorations that are on a long stick that you want to sit down and something when you're arranging items for the holidays, you could use them for that. You don't have to necessarily, you could use them for flowers, what they're intended for, but there's a lot of things you can use them for. This one I use for postcards, old vintage postcards or pictures, or if I have a note. I'm really good about forgetting certain things, so if I make a note, it's a good way for me to stick it right there. So I see it if you're in the kitchen and you've got a recipe card, you can stick your recipe card in there. So those are the different styles. And then this one, I'm just going to leave it the way it is because I have my scissors in it and it would just be too difficult. But I love this one. I think my mom gave me this one. I have to think. Oh no, it was my aunt. So my aunt gave this one to me, and it's a footed bowl with the flower frog piece, and I would imagine it was designed for a fancy centerpiece on your dinner table. I use it for my scissors, so if you are like me and use it for your scissors, you can get quite a few in there, and I just pop them in there. This isn't all my scissors though, that's kind of sad. But I don't have enough scissors to fill all my flower frogs either, so. And then this one is a metal one. So it's a little bit different. It measures probably about 4 inches here. It looks very Art Deco to me, so I'm going with the 30s. And it's got the metal piece right here, so you would put the flowers down in. So I'm thinking this would be more for a dry type of arrangement, something that you're not going to put a ton of water in the reservoir that's here because it's just not going to allow it. So for me, I'm thinking this was probably something to set on the table a one-time, few hours for the flowers kind of use. Now, let's see. I think I've covered all the different flower frogs. If you want to learn more about flower frogs, just go online, of course. I'll put some information that I've collected down below for you to go back through. And Another thing that kind of surprised me is the Smithsonian even has them in their collection. So they have some articles, some books, and some examples. If you go to their website and do a search for flower frogs, it will come up with a variety of things that they have in their collection or have gathered over the years. So I forgot this one. How could I forget this one? This one's ceramic, and it's just, this is the only one I've come across like this. I'm sure there's more out there, but it's the only one that I've seen. But it's got green here, and then it's the green here, cream, and then like a peachy color right here. So I love that one, and you can see where it's gotten, wherever it was sitting, it's got a little bit of rust on it. And then I'll show you one thing that my mom did, because my mom, she kind of figures things out sometimes. So she saw that I was using my flower frogs on a piece of fabric. And the reason I did that is because if you don't have rubber tips on your scissors, it's going to mess up your furniture, because the points are going to go somewhere and it's going to mess up your scissors. So if you have really fancy, expensive scissors, you're not going to want that to happen. So she made these, and I don't think anyone else has come up with this, but she took fabric that she had, leftover fabric that she had, and basically sewed it together with some batting on the inside. So this is a little teddy bear. And when she did that, she then attached it. So you can see right here how she went through the holes to attach the padded piece onto the bottom of the flower frog. And in the middle, she put this little crystal, it's a button, to make it a little fancy. So she did some of those for me, and she took some one year to market, and I think these are the only two that were left. They were pretty popular. So if you're so inclined and you have some flower frogs, this is a pink one that she did with some pink toile fabric, and it's just leftover fabric that she had. So for anyone out there who's a sewer or a stitcher, you could do linen. You could maybe do a design underneath here so that it shows through, especially if you have a clear one. That's something that you may want to venture into to make it a little bit more protective for your furniture and your scissors. So I think I covered everything that I wanted to. Oh, I guess I should tell you this too, since I'm talking about flower frogs, so I can put this subject behind and go on to another one. You can find them made of metal and glass mainly, and ceramic. So the glass that I've seen and talked about was Depression. There is carnival glass. There's of course the clear crystal glass. You'll see them in the milk glass as well. Those are the only ones I've seen them in. And I've seen them from just your basic flower frogs like I've shown you, the cages, as well as statues and the footed bowls. So if you're so inclined, just do a search and do Google flower frogs images and see what comes up. All kinds of things actually come up. So it's kind of interesting to see how they were used and how in some ways they're making a resurgence by being repurposed. So I will leave you with that on flower frogs. If you have any flower frogs that you have found or that you like, maybe you haven't found one yet, but you like them, leave me a comment and let me know that you're out there and what you have found or what you would like to find in regards to flower frogs, what your favorite is. I'll do a giveaway the next time I do a video, or the next time I do a stitching related floss tube. Let me preface that, because if the next ones that I do are on some of the projects that I mentioned earlier, then the giveaway wouldn't really make much sense because it would be focused on my stitchers. So my stitching buddies, how's that? So leave a comment. I will come up with a few things to send your way. And to leave a comment and to be entered in the giveaway, you do need to be a subscriber, please. Share if you want to. You don't have to be entered in the giveaway, but if you have any stitching friends or sampler friends, share my link with them, and make sure that you click the little bell. Now, apparently YouTube, down at the bottom where it says subscribe, there's a little bell, and even if you subscribe, you're not going to get notifications when I do my next video. So if you want notifications, which I hope you do, so that you can stop by and say hello, and just click that little bell, and the next time a video drops, then it will show up in your notifications. So I'm making sure I covered everything that I wanted to. So it's been a while and it feels good to get back into the swing of things. I hope you enjoyed your visit with me today, and I hope you learned a little bit about flower frogs, their uses, what's available out there, and maybe you know, you can start looking for them and come up with some creative uses that you can share with us in your comments when you have a chance to. I will be linking down below any information that I have on flower frogs, and I think that's all I talked about. So okay, so I'm doing better. I'm trying to focus on one thing. So bear with me as I get back into the swing of things and try to stay focused, because I do tend to go off in tangents, and I apologize. You can always find me or leave me a message on YouTube. You can also follow me on Instagram. You can also find me on Facebook. I do have a Pinterest board, but I'm not really active on Pinterest. But if you want to take a look at some of the things I have, I do have samplers and various things related to samplers out there. And you can always send me an email. Very simple, right? Sampling of memories for all of them. And email. Oh, this is what I wanted to share. I don't know how many of you were ever blogging, or if you're still blogging, but I miss it. I used to blog all the time. So I'm contemplating starting back up blogging, because sometimes that's a lot easier for me to do than a video, because it's fast. I can type it up and post it and I'm done. So that will be another way that you could keep in touch and follow along with me. And that's probably where I'll put more of my project related types of tips that I give out, like the flower frog base that my mom did, or some of the projects that I'm going to be working on for my craft room, because that would make the most sense. So anyway, thanks so much for stopping by. I'm glad you were able to enjoy. I'm assuming you're enjoying. If you've watched to this point, I hope you've enjoyed my video, or else you are bored out of your mind and you just don't want to get up and change the channel or turn it off at this point. So hopefully I have not bored you if you made it to this point. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to spending some time with you when I do my next video.